What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Bit Unraveled comedy podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hansinger, and let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody, to another week of A Bit Unraveled. Happy to have you guys back with us for another episode. Happy to share this guest with you. This guest this week is an old friend of mine from college. We started off doing sketch comedy in our sketch group, Seeing You Tonight. She's since gone on to New York City, where she is acting, writing, directing, and producing, creating independent films. Happy to have her on. Please welcome to the show, Jamie Monahan. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah.
Long time. As I was telling listeners, we go back to our days at CNU, Christopher Newport University, where we both were doing CNU Tonight sketch comedy.
Yeah.
Which was a fun time back then, and now it's been over a decade.
Yeah.
So it's great to catch up. It's great to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you too. And it honestly does not feel like it's been, I think it's over 10 years now, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm just trying not to
Ageist.
to the world how old I'm feeling. No, yeah, it's probably 13, 14 years now. Which is wild. Time flies. It does.
Yeah.
You're right. It doesn't feel that long. But cool. But now, since you've ended up in New York.
Yeah. I moved pretty much here straight after college. I ended up working at Busch Gardens.
Oh, okay.
I worked there as a dancer the end of my senior year until I stayed through Christmas. So about a little over 6 months working there, but that was what gave me the money to move to New York.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
I did. So I ended up working, just to give you, because we have similar paths. So it's interesting to kind of talk through this parallel, because I did a marketing job for 2 years to save up, and in Richmond I did it's college marketing. I was an email project manager. Which sounds half official, except for it's email project manager, so it's not that official. But yeah, saved up and moved out there. But now you're originally from Virginia, right?
No, I actually grew up in Japan.
Yes, I do remember that now.
Yeah, so I grew up in Japan, but I lived in Virginia. My family lived in Virginia before we went overseas. So that was our home base military wise. So going to college in Virginia that was like our home state, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Was it military?
Yeah, my dad's in the Marines.
Got it. Very cool. Got that little tidbit, which is a huge chunk of your life. But
I honestly think that when I applied to CNU from Japan, they thought I was going to add to the diversity aspect of CNU. And then they met me and they're like, oh no, you're not diverse at all.
Not at all. How funny. Hey, whatever. You got in. It worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. But we started off doing sketch comedy and stuff. Did you move to New York to continue comedy, or more direct acting and stuff?
So I went to CNU. I started out a musical theater major, and then they wouldn't let you take all the advanced level acting classes unless you were an acting major. So I thought that was not so great.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do all the advanced level acting classes. So I switched my major to acting, and then I moved to New York City, and basically with dreams of being on Broadway. And my very first audition was for an off-Broadway show. Wow. And I made it to final callbacks. And I honestly thought that's how easy it was going to be. I'm like, oh, this is just going to be so easy. I'm just going to be, in final callbacks all the time. I'll just jump from off Broadway to Broadway like that. And that did not happen.
Yeah. feel like that's easy to get, like, have those experiences too,
Yeah.
of, like, early success where, like, "This is it.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
easy."
This piece of
Um,
cake.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like I got lucky and got an agent pretty quick out here, and
Mhm.
then it's like yeah, it was a commercial agent, so, but I started doing some auditions and stuff, and then it just, it took me years to finally book that first thing, but,
Yeah.
um
It it's definitely a lot harder, and I will say that I loved my education at CNU acting-wise, but I didn't really feel like they prepped you for the business side.
Sure.
I don't think most colleges probably prep you for how to prepare to be a business and realistically look at your finances and be like, "Oh, I can make this a sustainable career whether or not I'm working." You know?
Yeah.
Like
That
that's
is, like that is a huge part of it, and I feel like people are always harping that, of, like, you're a business, you're
Mhm.
not just an actor, you're not just a creator and stuff, you are a business, and
Yeah.
that's a tough thing to learn, it's a
Yeah.
tough thing to figure out.
I think if you can grasp it early, though, a business is constantly thinking of strategies and how you could um, kind of add value to what you already have.
Mhm,
So as an artist, I think sometimes we make the mistake of being like, well, I'm just an actor or I just do comedy.
mhm,
Um, and maybe we don't ever think of writing or producing or
yeah,
casting or being a production assistant or all the million other jobs that are in this industry that could be your job while
mhm,
you're pursuing your main passion.
totally, yeah. Yeah, that's what it's something that and it's interesting talking to people on this because so many as I mentioned to you before we got on this, yeah, so many people have like different paths in and stuff. And
Mhm.
whether it's assistant work or bartending and waiting tables or
Yeah.
to stay flexible, there's so many ways to do it. But yeah, I think a lot of us also get into it not wanting to be a business.
Yeah.
We just want to be creators. It's
Yeah.
like I just want to act. I just want to do
Mhm.
comedy. Like
Mhm.
I want to hire somebody else to do the business, but you can't get to that without being a business.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so let me let's. I know you have had a lot of success with independent film and stuff, but I do want to
Mhm.
start a little earlier and just kind of talk about your experience moving to New York, and also like what's New York like right now? Like, because
Well,
it's
I actually kind of love it right now, at least in the summertime. So usually the summer in New York is filled with tourists and it's just very, very busy with people. So this summer, that was not the case. It seemed like anyone who had a second home, like all the rich people in New York, were
yeah.
living in their second home. So anyone who didn't need to be in the city was not here. There were pretty much no tourists. So it was like you had the city to yourself. And that
Getting a
was
taxi was
really
so
cool.
easy.
Yeah, yeah, like taxis. I mean, multiple times you could ride the subway and no one would be on the subway, but I mostly did
Wow.
city bike. I city biked everywhere,
Yeah.
which was also like really awesome and just so it's almost the exact same price as a subway swipe.
Okay.
So and then you're getting exercise, but also it's really fun to just, bike around the city. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've actually kind of enjoyed the lack of like how crazy it is.
Yeah. I got to imagine it's like yeah, being in LA, like this, the traffic is always bad here. So we've
Mhm.
had like a lot less traffic. The smog has been gone, like
Yeah,
the skies are clear. So, um, yeah, it's weird, but it's kind of
it is
nice at the
weird.
same time.
I will
Um,
say in the beginning, um, I luckily was able to get out of the city because my parents now live in Connecticut.
mhm,
But in the beginning, it was a little scary because we were hearing sirens all the time, like nonstop sirens. And that
really?
was in like the heat of when it was bad. So luckily I was able they just came down and got me and my sister both live in the city. So they just came and got us and that was nice that we could escape.
Yeah. With sirens as in ambulance?
Yeah, just like
Man.
constant
Oh
ambulances, yeah.
man. City that never sleeps.
Yeah.
Apparently with
Oh, and then
ambulance.
when we came back, the fireworks, people were going
Oh yeah.
crazy with fireworks, and like 2 o'clock in the morning, full on fireworks show. So, and there was a kid on our street who was riding, it's like one of those motorized, but they're like bicycles.
Hmm.
So he's riding a motorized bicycle and shooting Roman candles off the back
Oh
just
my God.
down the street. So that that was like not as fun.
Yeah. We heard them here, but we could never see them.
Oh, oh,
Like,
that's weird.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was really trippy. Like we could always hear them at night, but no one ever saw where they were coming from. It was really weird.
yeah, yeah. Luckily,
Um,
I don't know for you guys, but for us, like as soon as 4th of July happened, it just seemed like people
yeah,
stopped
ran
doing
out. That was
fireworks.
it. Got rid of the rest of them. All
Like,
done.
okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's cool. And does it feel like? I mean, are you guys still pretty locked down now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
pretty much don't leave the apartment. The nice thing about New York is you can get everything delivered.
yeah,
The restaurant industry is obviously suffering a lot, so I try to order from my favorite places as often as I can, but you can get groceries delivered, you can get alcohol delivered, like everything can be delivered, so you really don't need to leave your apartment unless you want to.
yeah.
So,
It's nice. I mean, if this was gonna happen, this is probably the best period in like
yes.
in history to have it happen, where you can literally have things delivered, and you have ways to connect like this.
Yeah.
Technology to not feel so isolated.
I 100% agree. And what's weird is I almost have a little bit of, I wouldn't call it survivor's remorse, but let
Mm,
2020 was actually a really good year for me artistically, and as my like business of acting went, it was like a really great year, and it feels weird that it was so great in a year that has been not so great for so many artists and just in general.
yeah.
So that's been interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely been people who've thrived in it, and it's nice to see. It's still it's great for those who are struggling to find their place in everything shut down to have some direction to be like, oh yeah, this can keep going.
Yeah.
And just you got to find ways to keep creating and keep moving. And yeah, some people are thriving. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, now let's talk about real quick with your with moving to New York. How was your experience moving to New York? Because you always
I mean,
hear the moved into a closet that was on the
mhm.
14th floor, stairs
Yeah.
only. You had to move for some reason. You brought your piano, and nobody knows why. No,
I worked at Busch Gardens, so I wanted to save up like $10,000 to move to New York.
that's like the magic number.
Yeah,
That's
$10,000.
yeah.
What's funny is it doesn't last long
Nope.
at all.
Nope.
Um, but I moved to New York with like $10,000, and I drove the U-Haul from
Mhm.
Virginia to New York City, which was an adventure. And I moved here with someone that I had met at Busch Gardens who also wanted to move to New York, and they were a CNU student.
How funny.
I think like a year or two younger than me. So, and she was transferring to school up here. So we
How
moved to the
funny.
city together.
Did you caravan
Um,
together?
we did in the U-Haul. I drove.
I did the same thing. That's so
Did you
weird.
really?
I literally drove out here with somebody from CNU who was moving the same week, and like, yeah, and we were like,
Yeah.
might as well caravan. And
Yeah.
how funny.
It definitely helps, I think, to move
Yeah.
with someone, and someone who, like, even if they're just from the same state as you, when you're moving to such a big city, it's just nice to have that connection.
Yeah.
So we moved here and we had picked our apartment. Like, we came here, I feel like we just came here for like a 3-day trip, found a place and got it, and we had no concept of like what commuting would be like or riding the subway. So we unfortunately got an apartment that was a 15-mile, no, sorry, not 15 miles, but several miles and 15-minute walk to the subway
Oh,
if
wow.
you were power walking.
Yeah.
So in the rain, like didn't even think about like, oh, what is this going to be like in the rain or when there's 3 feet of snow? Like it
Yeah.
is
Oh my God.
it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we probably should have thought about
Yeah,
this.
you think about it in the best case scenario. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
this
do
could be
15
fun.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Wow.
was that. And then from then on, I never lived so far from the subway. I'm always like 2 blocks away, or like it's
Mhm.
right on the end of my street. I won't do it ever again.
Yeah. Now, where did you land when you first got up there? Because there's so many different like little what boroughs, I think, right? They call it.
Yeah. I lived in Astoria, which
Okay.
they call Actoria because so many
Nice.
actors live there.
What part of town is that? Is that north?
Queens.
That's Queens, which
Yeah.
is north, right?
Yeah.
Northwest.
Well, northeast.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, it's like right next to Manhattan. I don't know how
Hmm.
to like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
right next to Manhattan on the right side if you're like looking at the island.
Got it. Yeah.
And it's really nice. It's like mostly Greek, but it's one of the most diverse neighborhoods in all of America.
Oh,
And you
wow.
can hear like multiple languages being spoken all the time, which I really liked. And it's quiet. A lot of artists and actors live there, and it's cheaper.
Yeah,
It's probably one of the cheaper areas.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Had you been up to there to New York prior to moving, or was this
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, I did a summer program at the New York Film Academy.
Got it.
So that was like the first time that I was like, oh, whoa. Um, I remember when I got off the plane, the taxi who took me to the hostel was
Hmm.
like, well, you're not here by yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't move to this city or like come here all by yourself, right? And I,
Right.
at least I was like, smart enough to know not to answer yes to that question.
Yeah.
And he's like, New York's a dangerous place for a young girl like yourself. And I was just like, wow, that was my first introduction to the city of being like, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah. Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
We did Molly Buckley and
Mhm.
Eric Helwig and I all went up to New York for one summer to do a Second City
Oh, cool.
intensive. And so we
Hmm.
went up and we stayed in a hostel. We did the hostel thing for 2 weeks,
Hmm.
which is an experience. It's the
It is.
cheapest
I feel
way.
like you just have to do it just
You
to
got to
like,
do it. It's weird. Do it,
it's
do it when
weird.
you're younger because
Yes.
you'll probably question too many things about yourself. Like, why am I letting myself stay in this shit place?
Yeah. I had to sleep with my suitcase. I remember that
Hmm.
because and I don't know if I had a lock for my suitcase or not, but I had to get a lock for my suitcase so no one could open it. And then I had to sleep with it because there was really nowhere else to put it, and there were like 10 other people in the room I was in. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, I guess I'll just like
Yeah.
snuggle up
Because
with my suitcase.
you have no idea who's staying with you. It's not
No
even the
idea.
same people night to night. It's like
Yeah.
bunk beds.
Yeah.
It's literally bunk beds in an open room. I was with like I think 8 or 9 other like Asian guys that slept very comfortably in just their underwear. I was like,
Like, yeah,
why are we
cool.
this comfortable? Why are we all this comfortable? No, we don't like um
It's
it was an experience and but it was fun and it was a lot of fun. I love New York. I think having done some of that, I realized I didn't want to live there at the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um it just I'm not a big cold weather guy. That
Yeah.
was that was a big deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, I at times when we have really cold winter here, it's a deal breaker for me too. I'm like, why did I live here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, just like the city in the spring and the summer and the fall, I like the seasons. And I mean, usually what I love about New York is a lot of what we can't do right now, but the fact
Mhm.
that you can go see live music, you can go see a comedy show, you can get pulled off the street like at any time
Mhm.
for an opportunity or something to happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like New York has a way of really like kicking you, especially when you're down. But right when you're like, I'm leaving, I can't stand New York anymore, I feel like they always pull you in, and you have this insane night that could only happen in New York. And you're like, oh, this is why I stay here. I call
Yeah.
them like magical New York City nights because they don't happen that often, but when they do, you're like, oh, yeah, this is why I live here.
Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, I feel like LA has its own a certain pull like that as well. I mean, even to the point that I'd moved away for 2 years. We moved to Atlanta to kind of explore that whole
Oh
scene.
yeah. Mhm.
And then having been there, we were like, we just miss it. We got to get back.
Yeah.
There's just something about it. And so we got back here in February and we got locked down. so
Oh, no.
but hey, it's if we're gonna be locked down, 80-degree weather isn't so bad.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
So
I saw that. You guys are, like, living in summertime right now. That's
yeah,
awesome.
pretty much. But no pools are open. So
No.
the
Hmm.
beaches are. So we'll
Yeah.
just go to the beach. Well, cool. Well, cool. I do want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your independent filmmaking and short film and stuff, because I think that's it seems you found quite a bit of success with that, and in terms of just kind of taking things in your own hands, which I think is awesome. Because there's so many creators who and actors and everything who are trying to find their way and always like, I'm trying to find an agent. I'm trying to find the right agent. I'm not getting auditions. You can have an agent, but you're still not getting auditions.
Yeah.
And then trying to book that audition, like it's tough. So
It's really
um,
tough.
I admire people who are creating their own stuff. I try to create my own work through sketch comedy and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I've had some friends who have done full length independent features, which is an incredible feat.
Yeah.
And then, there's a short form platform, which I think is fascinating. Um, and I'm always very interested in it. Um, I don't think my mind works in the short form format at the moment,
Mhm.
which we can talk about a little bit, but um, because it's a different beast. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
Um, but let's talk about your short film, Lucid,
Yeah.
uh, which is on Dust,
It
which
is.
I found it on.
Yeah. It's so crazy. So after that first audition, that was like a piece of cake. I ended up getting a couple of cool gigs. I don't want to like diminish that they were cool,
Hmm.
but my very first off Broadway show was given to me by a friend. I basically didn't, I don't think I auditioned. I was bartending at the time and they needed a bartender to be on stage in the background. So that was my off Broadway debut. No lines,
Yeah.
just bartending in the background.
Did you get
Of
tips at least?
the play. No, no tips.
You're
No
like,
tips.
send this 5 over to the girl in the back. Yeah.
The girl in the back. So that was kind of like, oh, cool. And then I worked at the Metropolitan Opera,
Hmm.
which again was super cool, but I was a creature of the underworld.
Hmm.
And I was on stage for like 5 minutes and super cool. But I was like this small on the stage. My parents are
Yeah.
so amazing and they came to see it. I think they must have paid like $300 a ticket to see me for 5 minutes in a 3-hour German opera. Like,
Oh my
talk
goodness.
about
All in
supportive
German?
parents. Yeah, all in German. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and so it was like a cool experience because I'm on the Met stage. It's 5 tier. It's like really cool.
Wow.
I'm thrown into an opera community which I know nothing about,
Hmm.
and working with like famous opera celebrities I know nothing about. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm just here to be a creature of the underworld.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so cool, but again, like nothing about my training, nothing about acting. It was kind of just like I really got the part because I was the right height.
Hmm. Oh,
I was
that's funny.
small enough.
Fake it.
Um,
Mhm.
and then so there were like four of us from CNU who decided to produce an off Broadway show.
Hmm.
And because we were tired of not getting speaking roles and we just wanted to like do our own stuff. And that was amazing. And I realized that I'm a good producer, but I didn't exactly like producing with them. They were
Mhm.
great. And acting was amazing, but like working as business partners, we were on all different levels.
Mhm.
So, then I decided to produce a musical off Broadway. I would say probably like maybe 2 years after. So
Mhm.
I produced a musical off Broadway. I'm in it. Everything I've done,
Re-
I've like put
Real
myself
quick,
in it.
what
Yeah.
is what is off Broadway mean exactly to somebody who's not
Oh,
super into? I
okay.
heard that I've heard the term 100 times, but like, what exactly is like off Broadway?
So technically, I mean, I think back in the day, it actually meant whether or not you were on Broadway, the street of Broadway.
Yeah,
But now the term refers to how many seats are in the house and if
got it.
it's a non-union or equity like house or
Hmm.
theater. So if it's an equity theater that has a certain amount of seats, which I believe have to be, I don't know the numbers, but
Okay,
like in the thousands, that's
sure.
a Broadway equity house. That'd be Broadway. And
Okay,
then non-union is in like the hundreds.
okay, and that's
Yeah.
just anything non-union is basically considered off Broadway.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Only Broadway is union. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess well, actually, that's not exactly true because there is some union that works in like, yeah, there is some union that works off Broadway, but
So that
primarily,
essentially. Oh, good. Sorry.
but there are no non-union on Broadway.
Right.
Makes
So
sense. Yeah.
Broadway, off Broadway is like basically the umbrella for independent theater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
So I produced something off of Broadway, a musical. I'm in it. It was like $30,000. I'm the head of the budget as well. I'm in it. I'm
Hmm.
executive producing it. And at the same time, a girl I know was taking $30,000, similar price point, and she made a feature film, an
Wow.
indie, like very indie feature film, and called in all the favors. And I was an extra in that movie.
Hmm.
And then I watched her career launch from her indie film,
Wow.
and nothing happened from my off Broadway show. While it was amazing, like it was an awesome experience, really incredible artists, and working with people I've always wanted to work with. The audience was kind of like not that many people every night because
Hmm.
it eventually became a decision of like I had to be an actor or I had to be a producer.
Right.
So I chose to be a good actor because
Yeah.
I'd rather have less people see it and say it was amazing than, have a ton of people see it and say it was mediocre. So
True. Yeah.
that was a tough lesson. But from that, I realized that ultimately the I mean, being on Broadway, while amazing, is not exactly what I want to do.
Hmm.
I've always loved film and television. I've watched the Academy Awards every year religiously. And if I look at the business side of things, being on Broadway is not sustainable.
Hmm.
Where being a day player in a TV show, I could make the same amount in one day that I could make in a week working a Broadway show.
Wow.
And when I
Yeah.
really sat down and thought about that, I was like, if I want a lifetime career as an artist, then I need to really be making film.
Yeah.
Film and TV is where I need to be.
Definitely.
you know?
It's yeah. It's kind of that thing of like going to school to be a doctor and then getting there and being like, I don't want to be a doctor,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Although a
Yeah.
doctor is probably a pretty good profession with a good paycheck, but you know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's
Right.
of
Yeah.
that thing of like, oh yeah, I want to be a school teacher. And you're like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
It's
other
not
thing,
quite what I thought.
the other thing I realized too was that, you know, like doing the off Broadway show was great, but I had no proof because you're legally not supposed to record union actors. And I
Mhm.
didn't. I know a lot of people do, but I didn't. And so I didn't have any proof that I made this thing. Whereas,
Wow.
with film and TV, everyone, if people can just see you act or can see, what you've done, it really helps move your career forward. And I just didn't have any, I had pictures. I'd be like, this
Yeah.
picture proves, so
Yeah.
that was when I really wanted to start transitioning into film and television, and also just tired of, I know pretty much every girl can tell this story, but auditioning for like the dumb blonde or,
Hmm.
just really two-dimensional roles that no one would be excited to play.
Yeah.
Just like nothing creative about it.
Yeah.
And I
Totally.
know casting wise, I get a lot of like cheerleader, cheer captain, girl next door, all American. Um, Most people wouldn't cast me doing like a dark, complex role.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I wrote one for myself,
That's awesome.
which was Lucid.
Yeah,
That was a very long answer for you.
that was great. But we got the whole build up to the to hitting the Lucid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. It's very well produced. I was very impressed. Great storyline and everything, because I know you created it, you
Mhm.
directed it. Um, it's impressive. Like the shooting and filming of it's awesome too.
Yeah.
And is this so you probably like, who's your cinematographer? Did you meet a cinematographer
Jake
from State
Simpson,
Farm?
he's
No.
amazing. Yeah, Jake from
No.
State Farm.
Okay.
Jake Simpson's amazing. I basically put out an ad on Craigslist, and because Craigslist is actually great for finding crew.
Yeah.
So I put out an ad on Craigslist. I had some images of what I was looking for. I got hundreds of responses. And I think I watched like 100 DP reels.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
it was a lot. But when I saw Jake's, his style of filming, everything, I just really wanted to work with him. And then we did like a video chat
Mhm.
and interviewed him because I believe he was in Russia. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, he was in Russia filming something, and I was in New York, and we just like did a Zoom interview, and it went long, and we just like were geeking out over film stuff, and basically hired him on the spot.
Yeah.
So that was really fun because now I've used him for both of my projects because he's just he's just really good.
Yeah. So now you wrote it, correct?
Mhm.
Wrote it, directed it, and then you're doing the producing. So you're having to
Yeah,
gather all the different, the director, the editor, and
yeah.
the actors and everything. Did you hold casting then also?
I did. I held
You
casting.
all the hats.
Yeah, it was really cool. I hired a casting director that I really admire named Erica Hart, and she's worked with like the NBC diversity program.
Okay.
Um, so she brought in like the coolest people. And there I knew who I wanted for one of the characters, but pretty much everyone else was open for the best person.
Was one of those characters just you? You're like, I
Yeah,
know I
yes.
want to
I mean,
be
yes,
I
I'm
want to
gonna
be
be
in
in
it.
it. But I knew
Everybody else doesn't matter. No.
I knew that I wanted to work with the character who plays Varys. So Miles Clohessy, I knew
The
I
guy,
wanted to work with him.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But I still made him audition because
nice.
I think you should do that.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I didn't tell him that, that I was thinking of him from the start for the role, but because I had worked on a project that he was in, and
Mm.
I just like the way his acting style, but also like how he is on set, and I just felt like we really clicked on that set. So I felt it would be an easy, and that I mean that's a difficult role to cast.
Yeah,
For anyone
definitely.
who doesn't know what Lucid happens in the beginning, it's just like that's a tough scene, and you want to make sure that it's with someone that you really trust and
Yeah.
respect as an artist.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to set up the give her some
Yeah,
perspective?
sure. Lucid, basically, the synopsis is that Charlie is sexually assaulted on a girl's night out and then turns to virtual reality therapy in order to get over her experience, but becomes addicted to VR.
Yeah.
So,
Which like I was so it's a sci-fi also, which I think
yeah.
is important to note. Um and it, like there's just so many little intricate things, even like the headset. I was like, you could have easily
Mhm.
done like a regular VR headset, but you chose to
Yeah.
do something more industrial looking, kind of futuristic looking,
Yeah.
to give it the feel. I mean, you guys had such awesome locations.
Thank you.
And I mean, like there was a lot that went into it. It was well done. It was really well
Thank
done.
you. Thank
Um, but yeah, I thought the just like the intricacies and the details of that, and like the VR set. I was like, I own a VR set, and I was like, well, that's not what they look like, but it's in the future, and it's like that's you came up with the concept for it. Um, so I thought that was really cool. Um, and then also I thought, now did you now I guess going off the sci-fi thing,
you. Mhm.
it landed on Dust.
Yeah.
which is a sci-fi platform with
Yeah.
like over 2 million like subscribers.
Yeah.
Um, were you aware of Dust going into this? And then was
No.
that okay?
It was actually, it's such a, I mean, this is just how it works. And I know, but like none of it was planned.
Sure.
All I really planned was I wanted to film this and I wanted to, so obviously that part was planned. I decided in January that I wanted to film, and then we were filming in July.
Okay.
And yeah. And then and then we edited it, and then it was ready to start like submitting to film festivals in 2019. Yeah. So 2019. So we did the festival circuit, and that was just like insane. I mean, I submitted to so many festivals, and you can spend a lot of money
Hmm.
submitting to festivals, and it's just so interesting like what it gets into and what it doesn't get into. Like I submitted it to Tribeca. I mean, I always think you
Yeah.
should have some like dreams, because you never know.
Totally.
You never know.
Yeah.
But I went to watch the Tribeca sci-fi shorts,
Mhm.
and when I did, I was like, oh, that is why we did not get in, because
Oh wow.
some of these are filmed with a $500,000 budget for a short film, like
Wow.
just unbelievable, CGI and just special effects, like just crazy. One of them looked on the caliber level of Star Wars. It was something that, like, I mean, so it was kind of encouraging.
Wow.
I think
Yeah.
it is important to kind of look at, if you do not get into a festival, to see who got in. Not that they're your competition, but just to be like, oh, okay.
Sure. Totally.
Um,
Now, with these like $500,000 shorts, are they like 15, 20-minute shorts?
yeah. Yeah,
With
I don't
like,
understand
it's
it. Like
amazing.
logistically, it doesn't make sense to me. And now that I've been on the back end of it, I mean, there's almost no money to be made in filmmaking anyway. But like when it comes to shorts, it's the only, I mean, the real only reason you should make a short is if you haven't done anything yet and you're trying to get like your foot in the door and you need a calling card. That's
Mhm.
like reason number one. Reason number two, you want to make a feature film, but you're going to make a short version in order to encourage people about fundraising and get people excited and generate buzz and press and all that stuff. And then you do a short film. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Or
It's
it's a passion project for you. I don't know.
right.
But like Luke, it's really hard to make your
Yeah.
money back on films anyway. So my idea was that technically Lucid is not a short, it's a proof of concept for a TV show.
Cool.
So
Very cool.
it's a miniature pilot episode to what the season would be. And what happened conveniently is that because it has a beginning, middle, and end within the proof of concept, I could then submit it to film festivals as short film.
Got
So
it. Very
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So going into it, you chose a sci-fi just based on the script and idea, not necessarily to create a niche for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Which
Yeah.
is awesome. Yeah.
I just
I
grew
just
up
like
watching
I was talking to
sci-fi.
what's that?
I just grew up watching sci-fi, like
Yeah, no,
Star
it's
Wars
awesome.
and Star Trek. And there
I
was
just
actually,
I
oh,
know
sorry.
some people who've picked out like horror films, like or like just different things that like they got notoriety off it being a
Mhm,
niche, but maybe didn't
mhm.
realize it was a niche. And I think that's kind of
Yeah.
where yours falls in. But it's
Yeah.
interesting because I think it got mass exposure from a thing
Yeah.
like Dust or
Oh, yeah.
and film festivals and things as well, but off it being a niche. So it's just interesting
Mhm.
whether that's a planned idea or if it just, just kind of happens.
Well, for horror, if you're going to do a horror short, there's a lot of opportunities of where it could go. So that I could see why people would choose to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had no intention necessarily, like I didn't have that concept for sci-fi. And honestly, I wasn't aware of Dust or that many opportunities for sci-fi shorts. Um, what happened with Dust was so random, which I was kind of leading into it. I got into the Holly Shorts monthly screening program, and we screened at the Chinese theater, which was awesome.
How cool.
And at the same time, that we were going out there, I submitted in like the open submissions to Dust, I submitted Lucid, but I never heard back, which is pretty common from those things because
Mhm.
they're just massive and they get, hundreds of submissions all the time. Well, the head of Holly Shorts was at the screening of Lucid, and Lucid won Audience Choice Award. Clearly, because I got all my friends in LA to come and vote, but like it
So
won.
what?
Yeah,
That's how that works.
exactly.
Just
I
how it
tell
works.
people all the time, like to go from an award nominated person to an award winning is only one award. And it doesn't matter what the award is. You
Yep.
just go from, anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. You
so
pull out
we
all the stops and get that one award. Yeah. Yep.
exactly. But we just got everyone to come and vote, and the head of the festival was there, and his friend works at Dust and is a part of programming. So he sent it over to her. I didn't know that he sent it over to her. And then I was CC'd on an email with like the head of Dust, the head of Holly Shorts, and the head of Gunpowder and Sky, which is Dust's umbrella company.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh, hi guys.
Yeah.
Um, and they said they wanted to license Lucid on Dust.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much how it all happened. And it was funny because, well, not funny, but like we went to LA January of 2020. So this was right before the shutdown.
Yeah.
And then I would say right before the shutdown, I was connected to Dust. But then the shutdown happened, and I was so worried that nothing would happen because I'm like, it was just like all up in the air, and emailing slowed down, and people weren't always in their offices and stuff like that. And so that was definitely like a concern for me. But then when it finally happened, it happened in June, end of June or July,
Hmm.
right in the middle of everyone kind of being home, which really helped, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great time to be releasing content.
Yeah.
People are available to watch.
Yes.
So it's a great time for that. Um, that's really cool. Um, yeah, and then you got to come out here and do the Chinese theater and everything. You got
Yeah.
Thankfully that all happened before. Yeah,
I
it was
know.
January and not
It's
March.
crazy. Just
Um,
crazy.
yeah. Um, now with shorts, were there? I know you mentioned a friend of yours had done like the feature. Was that the big
Mhm.
inspiration, or did you have other inspirations from other short films uh, along the way that got you moving?
The the friend who did the feature film really started it off, and I decided that I would shadow her or try to shadow her on her next project. So I volunteered to be a free production assistant, and my goal was to be like the best production assistant she'd ever worked with, and just learn everything I could possibly learn. So on that project, I went from production assistant to assistant director by the end of the shoot. And
Nice.
then ended up working with her for an entire year. I was a producer, an executive producer, an assistant casting director. I did everything. And
Yeah.
I think I worked on five projects in 1 year. And that all led up to then me filming in July. So
Wow.
it was great because I got to just watch and observe and be on the back end of stuff. I learned all about SAG paperwork
Hmm.
and, you know, um, just hiring and firing and contracts and
Yeah.
negotiations and all that stuff. And then I finally felt like I was ready to do my own thing. And the
Oh, that's
funny
great.
thing that we were kind of talking about earlier with Lucid is I mean, when I went to Holly Shorts, I had been working on Lucid already for like 2 years.
Wow.
So it coming out this year or like last year, it was like a 3-year journey
Wow.
to get on Dust. And that's the other thing that's very different from theater. Theater, you get cast in the project, you work on the project, you have your cast party, and you're done. You
Yep.
don't really think about it anymore. You're finished. You're on to the next thing. But with film, it's like it's never ending. We just got into another festival. Like I don't understand. Like I feel like it's this little. Do you remember that book, the little engine that could?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I think I can. I think I can. Going up the hill. I mean, it's just like won't stop. But it's
Yeah.
great. But it's just there's no. It doesn't. As a filmmaker or creator, it doesn't ever feel like there's like a closure. Like it's
Totally.
done. You're like, no,
Well,
there's
and I
still.
think I think like you said, the goal is bigger than just festivals. It's trying to
Yeah.
take it to the to a TV series. And
Yeah.
reason I asked about the inspiration too, because I was always fascinated by Bottle Rocket for one, which was
Mhm.
started off as a short film and blew up the Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson.
Mhm.
And then the Mark Duplass
Yeah.
has a short film where
Yeah.
he spends like 6 minutes trying to create an answering machine
And it went to
message,
Sundance.
and it
Yeah.
went to Sundance, and it
Mhm.
sparked his career. And I
Yeah.
think those stories are fascinating, and I've always been interested in shorts. But as somebody who writes comedy and particularly sketch comedy,
Mhm.
it tends to be a lot shorter. And like, so it's interesting, like the thought of drawing out and having like something like 15 minutes uh, is more of a challenge in my mind for comedy because it's so
Yeah.
much about pacing,
Yeah.
and there's so much like imagery and stuff that you can do with a short film, um, that like you can have time and you can be patient
Mhm.
with it. So it's I'm always fascinated by it because it's its own art form.
Yeah.
Um, but the sky is the limit, when you do it well and you come up with a cool, unique idea.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
so. I think ultimately though, if you are deciding to do a short, it's really about, I guess, why you're doing it. Because even if you look at HBO has a couple of shorts, Netflix
mhm.
has a couple of shorts. I mean, the smartest thing to do if you were a documentary filmmaker is to do documentary shorts because you could potentially win an Oscar for a documentary short. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Or animated shorts if you were an animator. But
Mhm.
other than that, there's not a ton of places your short could end up once it does the festival circuit. Unless you put it on YouTube or it gets on a platform. But even like just the truth of it all, if even if it gets onto an amazing platform like Dust,
Mhm.
it's not a huge paycheck for
Right,
filmmakers.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah,
you definitely want to. For me, I was thrilled about the idea of how many people watch it. Like I
right.
can't fathom how many people is like 250,000 people, which I think is what it's at right now.
Mhm.
250,000, like that's just for me, that's crazy. I can't imagine. And that is great for a first film.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, are you pitching this as no, knowing that that's where you wanna go with it, are you doing pitch meetings? Are you working towards that?
Yes and no. This summer I was a part of the Sundance TV episodic writing program.
Mhm.
And Lucid was the one that got into that program. So we were working on developing Lucid into a 1 hour pilot script,
Hmm.
which is so hard to do.
Yeah.
I I still say that I'm not a writer, even though technically I've written two things already.
Mhm.
um, but that's a lot of writing, and I
It's a lot
did
of writing.
learn
Yeah.
that I do not want to be a staff writer. I'm not trying to be, I write to film what I want to film.
Mhm.
But sci-fi writing is really hard because it involves tons of research. Like
Yeah.
anytime I think of anything in the lucid world, I have to think of like what is the future science? Like what currently exists that we could do? And then what does future science look like? And then what's like imaginary science from that? Like how could we
Right.
make this even cooler, but still have all the science that backs it so it seems legitimate instead of like fantasy? That's
Right.
so hard. It's
Yeah.
so I mean, even something so simple as entering a building, like, is there a doorbell? Is there Does it
Mhm.
recognize you by your eye, or is it just, does it see your gene coding? Like, how does the door open? Like, does it just slide open? There's a million things. Is there
Oh yeah.
someone on the other side that greets you? Is it an AI? Is it a robot? Is it a hologram? Like,
Mhm. Well, even I mean, yeah,
really
and it's
frustrating.
even like, what is the status? I was like, is the world crumbled or are we
Exactly.
thriving? And like, is it
Yeah,
super technological or has everything fallen apart? It's
exactly. It's
um
a lot of world building. So, I mean, I did a lot of work on it, but, ultimately, I've been working on my newest project, and it's hard to split your brain creatively to, like, I also teach. So, like, teaching and inspiring other people, plus creating my own content, plus having to further and continually feed this project, it
yeah,
seems too much to do all 3 at the same time.
it's a lot. It's a lot. What are you teaching?
So I teach people how to produce their own content. I do a lot of like private coaching for people who want to create their own short films, or I teach a class called Pitch Perfect, which teaches people how to make a pitch deck and have a really solid video pitch for whenever they go into that meeting with Lionsgate or Stars or HBO. So,
That's awesome. And so
yeah.
are you running that over Zoom or
Yeah.
I guess since it's was that a recent thing or how long ago did you start doing the teaching?
Luckily, I started before everything happened.
Hmm.
So I started in, I want to say 2018, 2019, and that was what helped me leave my bartending job.
Yeah.
I'm like fully freelance. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
amazing. Um, and I mean, I was so thankful for my bar job because it was a job. I mean, I'm sure they don't want to hear this, but it was a job that I could do and not have to think that hard about. Like I do the
Yeah.
job and then I leave. And I
Yep.
only worked 4 days a week and I made a lot of money. And then those other days, I was doing my other full time job of acting or, being a producer. So,
Hmm.
and it always worked out. And I was like the one person who, whenever they offered a cut or if they didn't need someone, I was like, I'll go. I don't need to
Yeah.
be there. Which you always need one of those on staff, I think.
Yeah. I've waited tables for a while out here trying to like because it's super flexible
Yeah.
and in an actor town like LA, New York, like they'll work with you. And
Hmm.
I'll never forget showing up to one of my jobs and I was like, I had to do an audition at like 10:30 in the morning in Santa Monica, but I worked in Sherman Oaks. And so I had to go do the audition and this place opened starting at lunch. So I had to
Mm.
be there for like an 11:30 open.
Oh,
And I was
geez.
like the bartender. So I was the only, it wasn't like another server could take my tables.
Yeah.
And I got there and like the manager's like, you suck and like blah blah blah. And then the owner, who was a former actor, was like, you lay off of him. And then he's like, listen, what happened? And I was like, I had an audition and I tried. I was doing my best. And the guy, everything got hung up. He's like, it's cool. It's cool. I
Yeah.
got you. Just don't do it again. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And
Oh,
then,
one of my best experience, I mean, like best worst, again, like I hope no one from my old job is listening, but I was I saw that a casting director that I knew was looking for someone last minute to be the lead in this commercial because the girl got sick, something like that. And I fit the bill to
mhm,
T. But I was on my way to my work shift and I was like, how is this going to happen? So the casting director had me on hold and it was one of those things where I'd have to like, I'm in Manhattan. If I got it, I'd have to jump in a taxi, go to Brooklyn.
oh my
I
God.
only had my like restaurant work clothes. So I was just like, oh God. And I'm like walking to work, trying to figure out if I'm going to call out sick or like what's going to happen and how shitty to call out like right before my shift. But it was a lot of money and I would be the lead in this commercial. And so finally I was like, I called work and just told them that I threw up on the subway. I was like, I don't know what happened, but I'm throwing up on the subway and
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
think I should come to work. And they were like, don't worry about it. We're slow tonight. It's going to be fine. And then I didn't get the commercial. And
Oh no.
I was like, oh,
Oh no.
but it's so hard,
It's
especially when
hard.
you first start out. I feel like you're always afraid to call out of your restaurant job.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I always felt like
Oh yeah.
this, but
I mean, because in big cities, you need money.
yeah,
You can't get
yeah,
fired and have a lot of time off. You still got to pay those bills. When
exactly.
in New York with auditioning, do you guys are they pretty spread out? Like, can you have an audition in Queens and Brooklyn,
No, not
or
usually. They're almost all in Manhattan, which is
okay,
awesome.
yeah,
And they're all relatively close to each other. There was one time where I got an audition for a casting director who usually, the only thing is like they go to they're like they're not always in the same place.
hmm,
That's what can be. So the casting directors will just rent out of different studios sometimes. So one time I was like, oh, this casting director always is at this part of Manhattan.
hmm.
And then they were actually in their other location.
Oh
But
no,
it was like one of those things where you could jump in a cab and, have a New York moment, be like, get there. I'll tip you more if you get there on time.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
an audition. And you get there and, it's fine.
you're right, yeah, yeah. We definitely have. It's pretty spread out here. So like to
Yeah.
be doing, um, some of these like self tapes and stuff is actually
Yeah.
super nice.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could have it in Santa Monica, and then you're back in North Hollywood, and they're like maybe a half hour apart, and you're like, I don't know how that's possible. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and
Yeah.
you figure it out. Um, but
I
it's
felt that
super cool.
way. We took meetings when we were in LA last time, and like we met with like several major places, and they were all over. And what
Yeah.
we went all the way out to Santa Monica from like West Hollywood, or oh, I don't know, where were we? Somewhere far.
Hmm.
And we get out there and they canceled the meeting and we're like, ah,
No.
it took us like an hour to get out here.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
but yeah,
the funny thing
it's very
about
spread out.
Santa Monica from like most parts in town, like you can get there in like 20 minutes, but on the way back, if you hit traffic, it can be an hour and a half.
Oh, geez.
So it's like it just bottlenecks. So if you
Yeah.
like, and I feel like the most common audition I would get would be Santa Monica Friday at 4 o'clock.
Oh,
So by the time
no.
I got out, it was like rush hour the whole way back. And I'm like,
Oh,
son of a
no.
gun. But it's fine. It's usually the traffic would be standstill. So you could just stop and read. Uh,
Wow.
um, but
That's one thing I haven't driven, like, pretty much since I've been here. I've never had a car. I'll drive, like, when I go home to Connecticut or on, like, a vacation or something, but, like, you just really don't need a car.
yeah, yeah,
Kind of
it's
forgot what
kind of
it's
cool.
like to have a car. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, very cool. And then you mentioned a second project.
Oh, yeah.
What's the second short you had done?
So we shot it in 2019, and then post has been drastically slowed down because
Hmm.
of COVID. And
Okay,
also I've kind of felt a little bit like, what's the point of attending a festival if you can't actually attend it?
sure.
It's my personal opinion. But it is a group of sorority vigilantes who kill bad men and eat them to get rid of their bodies.
All right, nice, nice. And
So it's
this one's in the can. We're just waiting for
yeah.
the edits. Okay, cool, very
Yeah,
cool.
and it's also a proof of concept for a TV series again, but a short film. So it's pretty dark. Well, it's dark and funny at the same time, but
Yeah,
I took my sorority experiences from college and
yeah,
um, kind of like enhanced those situations. And then the combination of like the Me Too movement, as well as the rise of the female anti-hero, which
yeah.
is pretty exciting. So
That's cool. I mean, they're great stories, and it's the perfect time for these stories to come out.
mhm.
You know, probably too late. Some of these stories should have been happening years ago,
Yeah.
a long time ago. But it's cool to take advantage of that and get those stories out and push that narrative. So it's
Mhm.
very cool. Well, cool. This has been super fun. I do want to try to promote some of your stuff. Is there anywhere where can they find your classes? Obviously we've told everybody where to find the short, but where can they keep up with you? To look out for the next thing coming through.
Well, I'm on all the things: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Clubhouse, which we'll see if I stay on Clubhouse or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm the same thing on everything. So it's at JME Monahan.
Cool. And I'll write that up for you too.
Yeah.
And
so it helps that's on all the things.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is really like my go-to source, I would say.
Yeah.
And I have a
that's
website
where you can find your classes and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My classes are on there. And then, my website is jamiemonahan.com.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Awesome. We'll definitely check out her work and keep an eye out for future stuff. It was super exciting to catch up and happy for your success and the way things are going for you. So we look forward to hearing more.
Thanks.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to A Bit Unraveled. I'm Ryan Hansinger. We'll see you next week.